Good morning, GM, everyone. Welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Finally, April. Q2 is here, a fresh month. Feels like maybe a fresh start, depending how Liberation Day goes tomorrow. There's green on the board here this morning. Now we're just hoping it is not an April Fool's joke. We're going to break it all down on today's show. Folks, we weren't sure if we're going to have Farouk with us. We've got him live from Switzerland. Farouk, GM, how you doing?
Good morning. How you guys doing? No, actually, I'm in the French part, so it's BJ over here. You know what I mean? I'm good. I'm vibing. I'm somewhere on the border of France and Switzerland in the middle of the Alps with bad Wi-Fi. And apparently I have to pay $1 million for everything and everywhere I want to go. So it is what it is. We're vibing. At least I'm not in fucking winter Montreal.
Yeah, we were just chatting before the show about your itinerary over the next 5 weeks. Maybe give our listeners a quick glimpse into what you're doing there.
Yeah, we are here for Watches and Wonders. It's like the biggest watch fair in the world. If you're a watch enthusiast, you've probably seen all the leaks this last couple of days of this and that. So it's pretty big. It's like, what crypto conference would you compare it to? I don't even know, but it's a big one. And so it's good. We're here to meet a few of the folks. I don't know what Mando's laughing about, but he's laughing at me for sure. And what are you laughing about?
Nothing. Something else.
What are you laughing about?
I'm super happy with you and your watches.
For cutting out a little bit. Hopefully we can get you back. While we do that, Mando, Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Back to our usual show, just me and you. You are definitely the MVP. It feels like I dip in and out for the end of the shows, but the Farouk likes a holiday, and you're dependable. You're often like the guy now. Every day, you're like what I was like a few months ago when it was just me, and then Ovi would turn up and say nothing for the whole show.
I can.
We need to get the Tyler family on holiday. It feels like all the.
Yeah, we are overdue. We skipped our spring travels this year with the moving into the new house, and wifey let me know about it last night. She said she is ready for a vacation. So we'll see. Maybe early. Yeah, I'm ready, but
bear market though.
I know. I still like showing up every day. I still remember what my Web 2 job was like, and I can tell all of our listeners without a doubt that I enjoy this substantially more. So
I agree with that.
Showing up every day. Folks, what are we talking about on today? It is Liberation Eve. Liberation Day is tomorrow. We have no idea what that means. I think uncertainty and volatility are at highs. We're going to talk about that. Crypto was rebounding. It looks like it's selling off now. We have Larry Fink warning the U.S. about some competition from Bitcoin. The Trumps are getting deeper into crypto. Circle looking to IPO here at the end of this month. The Financial Freedom Act may be letting folks use their 401ks to invest into crypto. Brian Armstrong arguing for interest-bearing stables. We had some big news out of Kaido and Noise. The WIF funds, they're refunding them, folks. It's not going on the sphere. We'll talk about that, what it might mean for the meme coin trenches, and a big day for AI with OpenAI dropping a major raise. And we'll talk about some more meme coin NFT action as well. Before we dive in, shout out to our partners. First, Galaxis. Galaxis is a Web3 platform empowering creators and brands to build unstoppable communities with full ownership and independence, trusted by icons like Donald Trump, Steve Aoki, Mike Tyson, and the NBA, shaping together the future of engagement. And Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect, that blue logo. It's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto, as recognizable as Visa at the checkout. If you want to learn more, follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. We love our partners. As always, with that, Mando, if you're ready, let's get into it.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
Hey everyone. So yeah, we did have a good day yesterday. Bitcoin didn't go to zero. Actually went all the way up to nearly 85K. It's in the last 5 minutes or so, we're kind of back down to 82.8. So not doing that well with the US stock market open. This is a backdrop of US stocks having their worst quarter since 2022 on a relative to the world basis. So relative to the world, it's like the worst first quarter in like 30 or 40 years. Like it's been a crazy underperformance versus everyone else. Gold had a great quarter. Gold again had its best start to the year in like 50 years, it looks like. So you have a lot of those sort of headlines just because it's the end of the quarter and everyone taking stock a little bit here. It looks like it doesn't look like we've started that well to this quarter. This quarter at least, just because tomorrow is the Trump tariff day, Liberation Day, or whatever you want to call it, and we'll see how that like spooks markets. So I expect things to still be volatile. You've seen Bitcoin dominance has obviously held on to its highs. You saw some more like risk-taking activity take place. Fartcoin went above 500 million again. And SPX had a big move. It looks like it's back down now, just below actually, but still one of the biggest gainers of the day again, Fartcoin. So still a decent move there. And the winners in the L1s were mainly the DeFi coins again. So it's stuff like Sonic and Bearer Chain, which have been probably the strongest over the last 24 hours. Weaker things are... I guess the weaker things are kind of some of the other memes, if I'm honest. But yeah, it definitely feels like the strongest stuff is in DeFi and selected memes as well. In terms of headlines, like you said, there's been some more positive news coming out from the political side, and that we're going to get some sort of bill introduced called the Financial Freedom Act, which could allow people to invest their retirement funds, their 401ks in crypto, which would be another big a big benefit. And then you just had Larry Fink being super bullish, but nothing crazy, which is like getting people bullish, other than more stables being printed, and it's just the same sort of trend. We did see a good sign for the AI sector yesterday is that OpenAI did a funding round which valued at $300 billion. So there clearly still is a bid for US AI. They raised $40 billion at that valuation. So I don't know if that's going to be taken super positively in like amazingly positively in public markets, but it's probably a good sign for everyone that they're still able to raise tens of billions of dollars at a $300 billion valuation. I think that's the highest funding round for a private company ever there. It does feel as though Trump is going to follow through with these tariffs tomorrow, but is already kind of laying the ground for trade deals after that. I think people like the UK will probably be first in line. Interestingly, yesterday you saw that China, Japan, and South Korea said they would jointly respond to the tariffs, and you don't often see those three countries agreeing on much. So definitely an interesting move there from like the geopolitical standpoint that they would go and do that, and probably points to the idea that they're probably going to hold true or strong against these tariffs. There's been some larger military drills around Taiwan at the moment. I don't know if that Taiwan, in my mind, is just kind of a time bomb at this stage of when China might invade just after Ukraine and Greenland, and now this. It does feel like that could always be something on the tip. I don't know when it would happen, but let's see. It looks like actually the sell-off that just happened may have just been some weaker ISM PMI data, which basically points to manufacturing data, and that's maybe indicating that we are in a weaker economic zone than people predict. So we've taken a bit of a dump on the back of that. But weaker economy is normally would mean more stimulus. So hopefully that's how people view it. That's it, really. It was just same trend. TradFi more bullish than CT on crypto, more stable. Some light outperformance from Fartcoin, and then bit of just range bound trading. Like we're still back at 83K now again, straight back there for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it feels like we're just going to chop until we figure out the whole Liberation Day tariff news and how much was a bluff, how much is real, where are the chips all going to fall. I think that's kind of my gut read on all this right now. The Larry Fink news I thought was interesting, but I mean, this is kind of just the rhetoric that we've seen shopped around a bit over the last few years, basically just saying that if the U.S. doesn't chip away at the debt, that the U.S. dollar could lose its standing to digital assets like Bitcoin. So I think if you're a Bitcoin fan, of course, you love seeing things like this. The Trump administration notably going after the debt. So I don't think this is anything necessarily that would be news to them, but Larry continues on the press tour. I think another interesting headline, we didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday. It actually happened early Monday, is that the Trump family is going deeper into crypto. And Mando, he said, when we were talking about how
to start, I think they would get into mining.
Yeah, how the U.S. could potentially operationalize a strategic Bitcoin reserve via mining. And then here we get the news yesterday. So the Trump sons have now inked a deal to invest a large chunk in this Bitcoin mining firm. The quick TLDR. So HUD-8, it is a major digital infrastructure and Bitcoin mining firm. They've launched a new company called American Bitcoin Corp. American homegrown Bitcoin, folks, in partnership. It's literally going to be homegrown Bitcoin, home mined.
Our Bitcoin.
So they're doing this in partnership with Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. This comes after they contributed the majority of their ASIC miners to American Data Centers, which is a company led by Eric Trump, in exchange for a majority stake. Now, again, they rebranded as American Bitcoin. Their goal is to be the world's largest and most efficient pure play Bitcoin miner. And they want to be publicly listed as both a miner and then a strategic Bitcoin reserve development company. So I don't know exactly if that means they're planning to build their own strategic reserve or perhaps contribute to the American strategic Bitcoin reserve, or both.
Well, I think this is just the most natural move for the US. What the US does have is cheap energy and various different forms of it. So I think getting into mining just makes sense. Does it surprise me that the Trump family themselves are getting in the middle of that and probably scraping some off the top? No, not at all. It seems par for the course for the Trumps in crypto. So yeah, they're probably going to do this. Maybe they'll get some beneficial government deal. Who knows? But I think this is how the strategic Bitcoin reserve is most likely going to be built. Some form of partnership with state-backed or positive subsidies for these sort of companies where they pay in Bitcoin, or they pay in return, they pay their taxes in Bitcoin, something like that. So I think that this, to me, seems the most obvious way for them to build Bitcoin. Can I ask as well, like, taking apart the fact that we all own Bitcoin, do you not think that this is the best way for them to build their Bitcoin reserve? Like, as an American taxpayer, right, set aside like a bag holder, because I think that is kind of the question, that could that get through Congress? Like, as an American taxpayer, do you not think them getting into mining makes more sense than selling gold to buy Bitcoin?
Yes, 100%. I think anyone who's logical and reasonable, right, would want them to accumulate a reserve in a budget neutral way, not just take taxpayer money and start buying a risky asset, even though that we all believe in it. on paper or conceptually, I want them to do things that are as FUD proof as possible, and that make as most sense as possible.
Yeah.
And this is a very logical way to do it. And we've talked about even long term how you might need governments to help subsidize mining anyway, as the incentives
100%.
to
Yeah.
run these operations start making less and less sense. So I think this is something that probably that may have needed to happen anyway, and I'm happy to see the U.S. doing it. I think my caveat to all of this, so I think that's bullish, very bullish. The bear side is I am getting very concerned about how deeply the Trump family is getting integrated with various crypto companies and the optics of that. And like we applauded our crypto czar, David Sachs, for divesting all of his personal crypto assets ahead of taking that position. Now the Trumps are doing the exact opposite. We're on a weekly basis. They're getting deeper and deeper into the game. So just in the past week, they announced they're going to launch the crypto ETFs, crypto.com. They have a stable coin now, USD, one with World Liberty Financial, which it kind of just came out that they're now like the majority owner co-founders. Like the co-founders turned over to an entity that is controlled largely by the Trump family in World Liberty Fives. So they're huge owners of that. Now they're owning this Bitcoin mining firm, and we're starting to see it in Congress, right? Like I read Decrypt stories every single day. Last week it was Elizabeth Warren chirping the stablecoin bill for trying to enrich Elon and Trump. Now we've got another person in Congress who's saying basically all these Trump family dealings are making the regulation they're trying to put through more complicated. And I agree. It is more.
I mean, I've been calling it out since the start, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of World Liberty Financial. It is essentially a vehicle with which they're going to enrich themselves. And this is after the Trump meme coin as well, right? Like, God knows how much they all made on that. So, yeah, like this is, if this was happening in Nigeria, we'd probably call a spade. But in America, and then obviously, it's so divisive, the politics over there, that when you call out this stuff, it's seen as being political. But yeah, this is very, very clearly like a sort of a kickback sort of organization here, World Liberty Financial, and I'd be very wary of what the Trumps are doing. The Trump family, that is.
Yeah. But I think this is one of my biggest concerns right now.
Yeah, and it may come back and bite them. And I think people in crypto should maybe see that too. I think on CT, the general feeling about World Liberty Financial is calling a spade a spade. Like it's not like super beneficial when they announce stuff. It's always like, oh God, what's happened here? But it does feel as though more broadly, it's more broadly not being denounced.
And it's a shame because he came in as like the first crypto president. Of course, he's more than that to most people, but at least to CT. And then he did put forth these thoughtful executive orders, and it looked like they were trying to make thoughtful policy. And it still looks like they are doing that. But
yeah, the policy is very different from this.
Yeah.
This is just the World Liberty Financial stuff and what the Trump family, I think, is doing. It's difficult to know because US politics works like this, right? It works via money. Like your political system is incredibly money driven. So to actually get things through, even on a political basis, requires money. Like any industry that needs to get anything done has to lobby and spend money on politicians. So maybe this is just exposing what's happening for other industries anyway. I'm sure there's huge lobbying that gets done by the oil industries and the tobacco industries and the gun lobbies. Like there's huge lobbying by all sorts of organizations, pharma. But it does feel as though the Trumps are going to benefit the most from the lobbying, let's say, of crypto.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one we just have to continue to monitor. We've been seeing it playing out. It looks like they're getting deeper and deeper into it. Hopefully the policy can be separated enough and then we can make enough progress in the near future that we won't have to worry about this becoming an overly partisan issue and perhaps reversing in 4 years. Because that is my biggest concern, but that's pretty far out. But we'll continue to monitor it. A few other macro stories on the day. We talked about you mentioned the Financial Freedom Act. I don't have a clear understanding right now of how easy it is for most Americans to invest in crypto via their 401ks. I know via IRAs it's possible already. My personal 401k at Vanguard, I cannot. So
But that's
this would
Vanguard,
be a
right?
big unlock. But that's a Vanguard. I think that's a Vanguard thing.
Yeah, it's a Vanguard thing.
So I don't know exactly what the impact of the Financial Freedom Act will be and exactly like which private 401k holders like this is going to change. But in general, I've said this for a while that I think when we talk about bullish catalysts, the infinite twop from 401ks is a huge part of what drives Bitcoin and larger assets forward here in the near future.
Honestly, I hadn't been paying attention to that you couldn't do this with your retirement fund. Like, I didn't know that you had separate regulation for 401ks versus generally being able to invest in mutual funds. Like the pension funds that I have, I can direct the funds that they're also going to be in, or at least there's normally a selection of funds. So maybe I thought this was naturally happening anyway, but it will. This will happen. There's no doubt in my mind that like this will get pushed through. Like this is obvious that they should be able to do that as well. So particularly for actively managed funds, I guess for some of the passive funds, you can imagine if in like 20 years Bitcoin goes to zero and everyone realizes that they've invested the state pension funds in Bitcoin, that can be a bit controversial. So I don't know for like the passively managed ones. But I think they should be able to.
I think it'll happen.
Other things they should be able to invest in this.
Yeah, and everyone still has the choice, right? And he tried to put this forward in 2022, 2023. It failed under a more Democratic controlled Congress. So we'll see if they're able to push it through this time. I think another very interesting story. Maybe I think this might be the biggest story of April in crypto. It's going to be up there. Is the Circle IPO? So it hasn't been officially confirmed, but it looks like they're trying to IPO in late April. They've got bankers now hired, JP Morgan and Citi to lead this, targeting a valuation between $4 and $5 billion. And why is this a big deal? I feel like everyone on CT, probably broader, now permeating beyond CT and into more mainstream. People acknowledge stablecoins, huge use case for crypto. They're rooting for them as a way of getting more digital asset adoption. But the $1 billion question is, how do you make money on stablecoins? And no one really has an answer for that that I've seen. Not a good answer, at least. This could be one. Right, betting on Circle's
yeah, look, I 100% think so. I think if I'm to think about the most likely firms to IPO in the US, Circle was like the number one. It already been like touted. The other ones are Ripple, Kraken, potentially this American Bitcoin Corp. Like, there's a number of different ones that could look to IPO. This is owning a stablecoin like Circle is just an amazing role. The other thing that you saw with the Stablecoin Act, which I think you pointed out, Tyler, is that they're not allowing yield-bearing stables in the US. So, like, they've basically just said, "Yeah, Circle, you just keep the money." So, Circle's got this incredible business model where the actual law stops them from paying anyone. No, I don't know if that gets changed in the future, but yeah, it's a pretty good thing to get involved in buying. It would be really sad if the most bullish thing in crypto this year was Circle, but it may be. They have a great business model. They're clearly in the in crowd versus Tether. In the US, they've got government regulation on their side. They've managed to get it so that the regulation literally forbids them from paying anyone out on the money they're making. It's great to be Jeremy Allier.
I think I would be a buyer at a $4 to $5 billion IPO. I would need to take.
That can't be the market cap of Circle, is it? Wow. Okay, I'd be a buyer there. Oh, 100%. I'm a buyer of that. Let me have a look. So Circle's market cap is what exactly? It's 60 billion now?
Well, that's the stablecoin market cap. So
yeah, and they're making 4%, right? On that, roughly. So they're making $2.4 billion a year in assuming an operating cash flow or gross profit, and then it's just costs. I mean, maybe they've got high costs. I don't know how much Jeremy's paying himself, but that seems cheap versus on a revenue multiple, that seems very cheap.
yes.
I guess the variables there is it's basically a play on not only stablecoin size but also US bond yields. So if you think US bond yields are about to collapse down to like 1-2%, then maybe Circle isn't the right play because it'll have to like double its market cap, that sort of valuation. But
This is interesting. So in private secondary markets, they were valued at roughly $5 billion in July. It feels like you would have to raise their valuation from July. Like a lot has changed since July 2024.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, their market cap's tripled of USDC. I think USDC was about 20 billion back in July. We can check. Circle USDC market cap. So this time last year. Yeah. So Jan 2024. Oh, sorry, we're not in Jan anymore. We're in March. 29 billion. So they've 2x'd it. They've 2x'd it in a year. So yeah, you'd have to assume that it's higher valuation than that.
Right. Maybe we get a chart like Newsmax. Did you see this Newsmax IPO yesterday?
Are we back? Are we in the IPO world now? I saw your tweets and I was like, oh God, it's the depths of the bear. We're tweeting about penny stocks.
Half of my tweets yesterday were about non-crypto things. This was a wild IPO. Apologies for the quick side. This thing went up 800% on its opening day, and then it's up another 70% today.
We're doing pink slips. We're doing pink slips on the side.
It's literally flashing pink, which is probably a good warning sign to change topics. You mentioned on-chain interest. So you're right. This is not going to be in the first round of stablecoin bills that are expected to get pushed through Congress. I think people do expect it to be perhaps in the next wave. But Brian Armstrong pinning an essay yesterday, effectively starting to argue for it. And the reason why they should, he kind of goes through how basically they aren't allowed. Banks and crypto companies should be allowed to do this. Currently, crypto companies aren't allowed to, while banks can, but then they offer much lower rates to consumers. So consumers are going to be the ones who win here. Global access, and then how it's going to be good for U.S. Treasuries. So it seems like a pretty slam dunk case. It feels like one that would go over well with this administration. So I think it's more a matter of time on this. I think they're going to lay the foundation with the current stablecoin bills in Congress now, and then round two will be interest bearing. But
yeah, you think? I mean, that would be the best thing for everyone. You can invest in treasuries, like Maple, for example, is a really good site that I've used for investing in treasuries before on chain. So you can. It's not like there's impossible for you to do that, but stable coins that give you yield, that would be ideal.
So another one that's a longer storyline to watch, but Brian Armstrong already raising his voice, so I think you like to see that. It kind of rounds out the big macro headlines. If we want to get down the risk curve a bit here.
Yeah, let's get down and dirty. Let's find out what's going on with Farcoin today.
Yeah, let's go straight to Farcoin. Why not? Thank you for bringing that up. The most beautiful
leading indicator of the globe is Farcoin.
Yes. The leading risk indicator for all markets right now is painting the most beautiful cup and handle setup that we've seen in across markets right now. So I woke up to this thing at 530 million. It was up 30% on the day. It sold off a bit, still hanging out at 500 million, which is kind of wild to think about given the macro uncertainty and volatility. So clearly people are betting on this thing. And
yes. Yeah, Farouk even bought some, he said.
yes.
So,
I don't know if Farouk is still with us on the spaces. If he wants to chime in on his Fartcoin purchase, he's more than welcome to. But if we have a nice Liberation Day surprise, there's going to be an early beneficiary of that, 100%. And I think we're going to see this coin rip up quite a bit.
I can't tell you how much as a non-American I hate the term Liberation Day. It's just, and that's not just being British, but like it is just such an annoying term.
Yeah,
Liberation Day for tariffs.
It is some very interesting branding, especially against the global backdrop.
They're going to liberate our fart coin, you know?
He's there.
I'm in the shower actually. I figured I'd just take it to the shower and listen to you guys. I just turned it off for a second. Yeah, I have to go to dinner soon, but I figured, I have to say, you guys run a great show. I'm listening for the first time in my life to Twitter Spaces in the shower, and I'm learning a lot about bonds and yields and Circle and Brian Armstrong and Fartcoin. I did buy Fartcoin at $440 million, man. Don't you be proud?
Yeah.
Was in the lounge last night. It was at 440 mil. I'm like, this is going to be an expensive trip. We're going to Switzerland. Why don't I make a small trade? Small. It's really nothing significant, but it paid for Vanessa's lower piano summer walks this morning. So not mad at that. I think tomorrow could be a big day.
Tomorrow, big day.
Tomorrow's going to be a big day for sure. Yeah. Stock markets.
I have a genuine question for you, Mando. Do you guys think this is a bluff and tomorrow's genuinely going to be some sort of relief? Or do we think this is extended, like, not great? You know what I mean? Because tomorrow's actually a big day, right?
I think he's going to follow through. Just noticing him and his negotiating pattern, like he's pulled out at the last minute a number of times. And I think he's actually going to follow through this time. I think he's going to be negotiating with people with the tariffs in place, essentially, and being like, he's going to walk them back. So I think this might be amongst the highest amount of tariffs that you start to see in the US. And then he'll walk them back with trading partners or ratchet them up potentially with people who continue to not play ball. But this is going to be the starting position, I think. The starting position is we're adding 25%.
And that, if it does play out like that, you can make a case that would also line up with a bottom scenario, with forward-looking markets who have priced in the worst. Like we've Powell came out and said it. They're pricing in like the worst case scenario with tariffs. So Trump comes out hard hitting, does exactly what he said, puts them all on the table, and then April 3rd. Okay, now we get the headlines from Bloomberg. Trump and Mexico in negotiations to lower tariffs.
Yeah, look, I would agree with that it's probably a bottom for certain stocks. The reason why the US stock market is sold off, in my opinion, is not because of tariffs. Tariffs don't really affect Nvidia that much. They help Tesla. Tesla makes all its cars in the US. Right? I think the US stock market is sold off because of a deflation of the AI valuation, or perception of valuation for these Magnificent Seven stocks. This level is now at back to where it was last year. It's officially down 20%, which it means it's entered a bear market now, the Magnificent Seven. So I don't know if tariffs is what Trump has said he was going to go out there and do, rebuild the manufacturing base of the US, encourage foreign direct investment. But that might, as you may also know, these seven stocks, they make up a ludicrous proportion of the US stock market. Mm-hmm. And that's what's being challenged here, in my opinion. Many of these are not necessarily a net loser from tariffs, right? Particularly some of the the ones I just mentioned. So I think it's been more than that, and that story I don't know if it is fully played out. To put in perspective, for example, Tesla, and there's a story. You might think it's all some political thing that's happening, and part of it is, like their sales in Europe are down something like 60% year on year because Europe hates Elon at the moment. Part of it is that, but Tesla's valuation has never really been about being a car company, or it's valued than all the other car companies combined, right? It's valued as an AI and robotics and potentially self-driving company. 2 months ago, Baidu and what's the other super famous China BYD, sorry. They came out and said, we are going to give self-driving tech for free as standard in our cars, as standard. And there are certain levels to this. They have the ones where you don't even have to touch the wheel as standard in China, right? Like I think Tesla's current model is like level 2, and there's like level 3, and level 4 is like completely autonomous. So China is coming after a lot of these tech valuations in several different ways, where it's self-driving cars, it's robotics. There've been a ton of stories again about Chinese robotics. Also with the demand for GPUs, which is affecting NVIDIA because people are saying these LLMs aren't going to cost as much to train with things like DeepSeek. So it's actually been more than that. It's not just like Tesla's down because of tariffs. Tesla went up when these tariffs were announced because tariffs on US autos from abroad would help Tesla because they make them all make more in the US. So I don't think that just this is just a tariff story. I think that's kind of the politics being seen in it all. I actually think this is a deeper story than that.
Yeah, that would make sense. The other aspect, I've started to see some of the bear posters on the timeline calling out the Japanese yen carry trade 2.0 as a part of this. Have you been following that? Like, 'cause we clearly saw like the carry trade sell off last year. We V-shape recovered. Is that another factor at play? Is that being overblown right now? That's above my pay grade.
I think it's a factor. It's not a great sign that you have to have unwinding of those sort of trades. I think what really caused the drama there was a sudden move, and now it's kind of like viewed that generally Japanese rates are going higher. I think there is an underlying worry globally that we were on the precipice of potentially a sovereign crisis at a non-small economy. The people like the UK is often mentioned, Japan is mentioned a lot, and I think that's one of the persistent worries. So, like, yeah, if Japanese rates continue to rise, it could be a problem for like global markets.
Yeah, so that's gonna be another.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that is partly a worry. I actually just think this is more people are worried about this as a .com style deflation than tariffs, in my opinion. Tariffs they're kind of uncertain. Like they do help certain US stocks, arguably. So it's arguably, yeah. Like I don't think tariffs are the big thing here. But yeah, that is my view. People might say different things.
Very fair. I'm going to respond in a second, folks. Real quick, if you're listening in the spaces, the rollback code is April, first day of April. So we will be doing our spins here in probably about 10, 15 minutes or so. For me personally, I feel like one of the differences between the .com bubble is that these are still, like the Mag 7 are very real companies with very strong businesses. And it's not like the pet.com of the world who are reaching crazy valuations because of their website. So I don't know. I haven't dug super deep.
100%. I agree with that 100%. Like these are not those sort of businesses. In fact, they were already a huge bit of the stock market, right? Like the FANG stocks is what they used to be, which had a bit more of a social media style edge to it, right? They were still a huge bit of the cycle before it. And like Google has, or Alphabet has tons of different businesses. Amazon has tons of different businesses. That's why I thought the OpenAI news was kind of interesting today. They still got $300 billion valuation. DeepSeek was made for what? Like, who knows? But definitely nowhere close to 300 billion. So the fact that they got that was kind of a bit eye-opening. I mean, SoftBank were the ones leading the round as per usual. So who are known for sometimes buying tops. But the main one here is Nvidia, right? Nvidia is now comfortably, it's dropped out of being the top 3 stocks. Microsoft was another one, which is kind of was built up. Microsoft was a returning story on the back of it being at the front of the AI trend, and Microsoft's had 4 negative months now. I think it's like the first time in like 20 years. So, right, yeah, someone just put Amazon does 100 billion. That's the point. There are some of these stocks which have actually held up slightly better, are a bit more diversified. Facebook has great free cash flow. Amazon has great free cash flow. Apple, great free cash flow. But some of the other ones were really a AI story or have been. So I agree. I do not think this is a .com style destruction or deflation. But I think that's if Nvidia does drop another 20% here, that's going to cause some damage, I think.
Sure.
To the top market.
Yeah, I don't feel like it will, but if you're on the Bob Lucas camp where you think we're going to continue going down into June, I guess that's a real scenario on the table. So we'll certainly see. Appreciate your macro thoughts on this. As always, we may know more here in the days to come. We will certainly find out. I want to come back to a couple Web3 stories, but before we round out the show here, we did get a somewhat interesting new product launch out of Kaido and this company called Noise. So I think they've been teasing this a bit. I think Brett actually mentioned this. So this is going to be a protocol on Mega ETH. Noise, their tagline is effectively trading attention. They partnered with Kaido using Kaido's backend data to effectively stand up a platform where you can go long or short trends. So the exact those heat maps that Kaido shares, like Monad is leading in L1 mindshare today. Now on Noise, you can go long or short that. So if you think Monad is going to be a big trender from an attention standpoint over the next week and month, you can go long, or the opposite. They just had a big announcement. You think that is going to dissipate and slow down over time, you can go short. It looks like this is in beta, somewhat of a limited set of ideas and concepts that you can go long or short. Right now, it looks like it's just a handful of chains, a handful of apps. So if you hate Pump Fund, you can go short Pump Fund's attention right now. Similarly with OpenSea or Farcaster, there's a handful of infrastructure apps on here as well. I feel like where this gets a little bit more interesting is if they get into some of the broader trends. So like Kaido has those more category maps like crypto AI, DeFi, meme coins, where you could actually bet on, what sectors of crypto you think might have the most attention. So like a great trade in January was short crypto AI, long DeFi. Right now, those have started to even out a bit. So in theory, that's what you will be able to do on here. It's a very interesting concept. I think one of the challenges is can Kaido's data still be gamed? So we've seen folks complaining on the timeline this week about yappers who aren't creating good content getting to the top of leaderboards by gaming it, by 3-3, that type of thing. Well, if there's real money on the line on platforms like Noise, are we going to see that tenfold? And we've seen it in Fancy Top. People care enough about Fancy Top to bot their heroes. And there was a point in time where you basically couldn't win without being botted. And then, of course, the team came out to try to do some anti-bot measures. But it seems like the folks who were botting are always a step ahead. There's real capital on the line. I think Noise is going to have to figure that out. But it's an interesting concept to be able to do this. I think Mandos is something you would take a look at.
It just feels like another way to gamble, doesn't it? Yeah, like I guess I'd have a look at it. I would be very much wary of what you just said. Like I don't know if I'd
Big capital.
trust. Yeah, like I don't know if I trust the idea. If the bigger the capital, the more people will just game it, right? So it feels as though this is good when it's not a huge amount of capital, and then you can be like, it's just some funny parlays between people. But if it's like millions of dollars on the line, people will game it for sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Gonna let the team cook here a bit. May try to even get them on, see if they can answer that question for us. How they plan to put in controls for that. We talked about Fartcoin already. I think in the AI streets. So market cap 6 billion is kind of just chopping around this 5 to 7 billion range. We did get big news out of Shaw and AI 16Z yesterday. Two pieces of news. They are going to launch their own token launchpad. It's for AI tokens. It's going to be called auto.fun. No code agent creator platform. You can create your own. I think what they're saying, sustainable tokenomics. Creators are going to get rewarded and more. And also Eliza OS version 2 is going to be ready to launch. So expect more announcements on that front as well. That feels like the bigger announcement. I mean, Eliza was very arguably the catalyst for this entire AI meta. At least the reply bots, those were all built on Eliza for the most part, as I understood it. And now they've made an upgrade. So maybe we'll have to get Ovi on the show, see if he's still holding his AI 16Z.
He definitely is. He definitely is.
Yeah, I want to know about that too, actually. I want to ask Ovi about the AIXBT and GOAT spread with Fartcoin. Mando, do you mind asking Ovi about the GOAT and Fartcoin spread for me, please?
Feels like that's the only thing you two talk about these days. You touch his feelings. You know you've won that battle, and you just bring it up every 5 minutes.
You know, I don't bring it up on purpose because I really know I hurt him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that one, Ovi doesn't like to lose, neither do I. But that one, he really took the L, and I don't bring it up because I love my boy. You know.
Yeah. No, he's that one's a painful one for him for sure.
If he's still holding these, I am very curious what his plan is.
What his thought is. I think he thinks that, which is kind of what I think as well. Like if we're going to have a second altcoin season this cycle, I do think some of that stuff can move quite a lot. But Fartcoin it's been one of the best performers out of all altcoins off the bottom, right? Like it's still a very, very strong thing. So I think he's going to lose that battle, but hopefully his trades still do well. You know what I mean? I still think they can come back towards the end of this year potentially.
100%.
I mean, like I was super bullish on all of these, right? And then
Same.
after Libra and Trump, well, mainly Melania actually, had to rethink that all now, and it now feels as though the time it had a window, right, where it was just dominating, and now it feels like that time is going to have to come back when everyone's healed, because everyone just got so wrecked after Melania that it takes a long time for that stuff to heal.
It does. I mean, I became an AI 16Z partner at like $1.40, and took quite a loss on that trade. One of my concerns with this coin very specifically is a buddy put it into my head that he thought Shaw put the writing on the wall that they didn't like the low amount of tokens they owned and controlled for AI 16Z, and that they would eventually soft rug it and launch a new token. And with their new launch pad with tokenomics that they are able to design and control, I think that is a very non-zero possibility.
Oh, 100%. He was very vocal about that. I think you've hit the net. Whoever that was, smart person.
And he was calling that when it was well over $1 billion. So I got to give him credit for that. Again, folks, that's speculation. I have no idea what Shaw's plans are. But
it became apparent when the price started going lower that he wasn't happy about that. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Eliza V2 is. The rest of the board. So ACT was the other story. I don't know if folks saw the Kobe tweet, but there was like 9 tokens on Binance that all fell 50% today. Seems like one market maker was tied in. I actually hadn't had a chance to dig in. I don't know if that was Wintermute or someone else. But
people are saying it's Wintermute, yeah.
Okay. So they clearly just sold off huge chunks of bags. ACT had been a top 3 AI token. So I run these every day. And they
it was still in the top 3.
Yes.
Man, the crime of that token will be there'll be a Harvard Business School study on that one.
I have a question on that. When we see the Wintermute wallet selling, is that usually Wintermute themselves, or can it be people through Wintermute?
It can be people through Wintermute, yeah.
Because you can use their services as buy and sell, right?
Yeah, so it may have not been them, but there's clearly some crime going on. I think that the range of tokens
was time from A to Z. Yeah.
People have said anecdotally that Justin Sun was linked to the ACT meme coin. So maybe this is Justin Sun dumping them all through Wintermute.
What's interesting about ACT specifically, like it held they kept it at this 18 cents, $180 million level for 2.5 months, basically just straight sideways while everything else bled out. Like if you've been following this market, I think you know what happened to the crypto AI space from January 20th to March 20th. Somehow this ACT stayed perfectly even until today, where it fell 50%. So I think that caught a lot of folks off guard. But still, like no one on my timeline talks about ACT. So I think this is a very...
I have never met anyone that actually owns that token.
Same.
Yeah. I never met anyone. Oh, there was one guy, wasn't there, who like made a ton of money from it. But yeah, it's...
I mean, if anyone was in it before I got that listing, it was one of the single biggest winners.
Right.
The cycle. It went 10x in a day, maybe 20x or more. So we'll see how the AI board continues to shake up. Eliza V2 is going to be something to watch. I think my gut is we just continue to chop and range for a while until we get some bigger catalysts. Interestingly, OpenAI raising $40 billion and a $300 billion valuation didn't really move the needle for anything. So it seems pretty disconnected from macro AI at this point. Yeah, I think that mostly goes through the topics I wanted to hit here. There was some news out of 6529. I think that's a longer story, so maybe we'll save that one. Basically, he's using the memes by 6529 as a kind of a testing pad for his long-term vision of launching a decentralized nation state, which I hadn't put that together. So that was eye-opening to me, but that's a longer discussion. So maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow.
People have been buying those up for a while. I didn't really know why, and now it kind of makes sense.
One series specifically, DGMD, he put up a big bid wall. He bought like 1,300, and that kind of revitalized the collection. And now, because the news is for this new season, it's going to be decentralized. So they're launching effectively a voting token, where based on how many memes you've held, how long you've held them, what memes you hold, you get voting power, and then you can choose. The community is going to choose all of the memes for this season. So, and he's running it as an experiment to see if a group of people can decentralize it, and this is going to make this a success or a failure, as kind of a test of, all right, so what else can a decentralized group of people do in a community/society? So that's the idea. So it's a big vision. 6529. If anyone can pull it off, he's on the short list of folks who could do it. Folks, that code again is April for Rollbit. If we've got our Rollbit crew here, I think let's get on stage and let's get into it. All right, we're doing the draw. Here it goes.
Let's go. Let's go. Go for it, baby.
Up and to the right. It is a right guy. Up and to the right.
Ooh, another red guy.
I think what guys win 40% of it.
Holy shit. That's 40% of our listeners.
Very fair. Up into the right. Go ahead and cross. You know how it works. Another right there. Yeah, nice little box here. Up there is. Okay. All right.
Let's go, baby.
They are up on stage, up and to the right. How you doing? GM, you won. All right, well, they're up here with us. Doesn't look like they've gotten off mute yet. No worries. They're here.
I see him. I see him on the stage.
Let's oh, there they are. Up and to the right. How you doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. He cannot contain his excitement here this morning. Oh, he won. we were spinning. I didn't even see it. You won a rec guy. How about that? That was a fast spin. That's a nice one. It's got the stripes. So up and to the right. Proud owner of another rec guy. You won.
Let's fucking go. $1,000.
We will coordinate with you after the show to get you over that NFT. Well, folks, that's going to be it. That is our show. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in today. I want to thank my co-hosts. I want to thank our partners. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until then, go make it a great day. Goodbye.